I'm Louisa Wilcox. This is Financially Savvy. I hope to bring to you some interesting insights into business, life, and money. Thank you for listening. Hi and good morning. Welcome. We've got Viv Guy here today, and I'm really excited because Viv is a marketing and visibility coach and mentor. So it's going to be great having Viv on, telling us a little bit about her money story and about what she does, and hopefully have a maybe possible few tips for you on visibility, because I've already looked at your backstory and you have lots and lots and lots and lots of experience in business and what you do. So welcome, Viv, and hi, please tell us about you.
Hi, Louisa. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. And hello, everybody who's listening as well. I am a marketing and visibility expert. It makes me feel old when I say this, but I've been in business for 20 years this year, which is just, scary. And it's flown by. So I started my first business at the age of 22. We can talk more about like how that came to be and so on and so forth, and grew that business over the next 12 years to be a seven-figure business, turning over seven figures a year. Then I was planning on starting a family, and I was a total workaholic with my first business. So decided, actually, I was a little bit bored. Well, I was a lot bored of it because Louisa's going to be like, what? Because it was so financially stable, and the thrill of the setting up a business had kind of got away. And I was having a family, and I thought, I don't want to be working all these hours. I was constantly like on call. And I just wanted to do something different and creative because my degree was creative. And so I decided to set up a photography business because I thought this would be really nice. So I then set up a photography business. Long story there, eventually niched into personal brand photography. And then that evolved and organically I do like letting things evolve. Took me down the path of coaching and mentoring because of the type of clientele I was working with. And so, ended up moving into the coaching world and really helping people to market in a way that feels, I know it's a bit of a buzzword aligned, but, something that feels good and right to them, excuse me, and something that they're actually going to be consistent with. Because when it comes to marketing, consistency is key, and if you don't like what you're doing, you're just not going to do it in the long run. You might have a little stab at it for a few weeks or a couple of months, but you're eventually going to be like, not going to do it. So so that's fundamentally what I do. And I will talk more about that as we go along, I am sure, because I'm going to be giving you some tips today on how to market your business so you can make more money. And that's ultimately what led me to sort of help people. Is I'm really passionate about, especially women, and I know this isn't just targeted at women, but women being financially like wealthy. And I speak to a lot of females. I predominantly work with females. It's not because that's the niche I've chosen, but I do attract a lot of female clientele. And, even though they can be supported by partners, husbands, they want their own financial independence, because usually pre-kids, they had that financial independence. And even though the money's coming in, they want their own financial wealth, I guess, and independence. So I'm really passionate about helping people do that. And the big block for so many people in business, so many entrepreneurs, is, how do I make money consistently and get off the freaking roller coaster that is, and the peaks and troughs of months of 0K months to then suddenly 10K months, but not being able to plan. And I was really passionate, and that's what took me into like really the drive behind the marketing, and specifically lead generation. So bringing more people in, because you can be amazing at writing emails, you can be amazing at creating content, but if you've got no eyes on it and you're not bringing in fresh eyes to that all the time, then you're not, your income, your sales, will plateau, your growth will plateau. And that's what I see so often, is people that have plateaued, and often plateaued at the 0, or 500 or 3K mark or something, and they're like, it's really horrible and it's icky. And so that's, something I'm really passionate about helping people to do.
Yeah, I love that, because I think it's really true what you're saying. And obviously I do sort of have kind of niche down into work with female entrepreneurs. Obviously men are always another, welcome into my world, never stop anyone, because like you say, financial literacy and independence is vital. But as women, we are quite behind still in this area, and it is because of, in well, historically, it's been very much a man's role, hasn't it? It is
Yeah,
changing in society. And
yeah,
obviously, in your entrepreneurial world, I said on previous podcasts, there is going to be more females, more female-led businesses. So it is really important that we do actually make that money and know how to actually look after it, which is why I do what I do as a money strategist. But I love what you're saying, because in business, especially, and you've probably seen this because you've done it yourself in your different businesses, when we start up, it's all so exciting, isn't it? We get
yeah,
going and we do it, and you get busy, you get sales, and you're, oh, that's amazing, I've got sales, and then suddenly the sales stop,
yeah.
and then that's when people tend to give up. But it's about having that consistency, or they get shiny syndrome, and someone's selling this little program or course over here, and they go, oh, that person's going to fix it for me, so they spend a couple grand on a course, and they go, oh, that didn't quite work, I've still got no sales, so they get shiny syndrome again and go, well, that person said they can help me, spend another 2 grand, and
Yeah,
it keeps going. It's this endless cycle. And like you say, the visibility and the marketing is really key, but it's having that link between being visible and marketing yourself and actually then generating people into the sales, into your world, isn't it? And that's the bit,
absolutely.
is that one tiny little link or tweak that actually often people really struggle with. And it's like, yeah, you can post on social media, you can do your emails and everything you're meant to be doing and get people into your world. But if you can't do that little tiny bit of the link to get them actually buying or being within wanting to work with you, that's when we then start getting things like imposter syndrome. Go, well, why are they doing so well and I'm not? Or why is it I had a £10,000 month and now suddenly I'm getting nothing? And it
Yes,
is all this all the time, isn't it, within business? If
yes.
you're feeling like that, is there any tips you can give around that, around how to actually, if you're working on your audience and your visibility growth, how do we then actually look at getting people from this place here into the wanting to be in your world, connecting with you, following you, or however it is, to then actually coming together to go, yes, actually I want to work with you? Because obviously you see this all the time, so what is that missing link? Is there, or is it very different for each person in business?
No, it's not different. It's pretty standard. So for most entrepreneurs out there, they are just not consistently visible enough. So that means you're not getting in front of your audience enough. So I hear a lot of people who rely on social media saying, but I post every day or multiple times a day or like several times a week. Um and I say, but what are you doing about lead generation? And they say, well, I post. I'm like, yeah, but that's content that's getting in front of your existing audience, but it's not a way to bring new eyes in, because we know that the algorithm on social media is not what it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's not pushing that content out to new people. You have to therefore bring new people in to get the eyes on that content. So that is the first mistake that people make. Yeah, they so stop posting the content as much, start getting out there and getting in front of your ideal clients and kind of going, hey, I'm here, I exist, come
This is
over
who I
here and look
am.
at how, that's fundamentally it. You kind of, it's like roll up, I'm here. And come and look at like all this fantastic stuff I do. And this is why you should come and look, because again, the marketplace is so saturated now, and that people are savvy, our customers are savvy to the marketing strategies and tactics that are out there. So we've got to shake things up a bit and do things differently. So once we've actually got our lead generation bit sorted, so we're getting in front of people and we're saying, hey, come on into my world, whether it's you're going to give them a freebie, a resource, you're going to give them something, it could be trainings, could be whatever it could be, to bring them into your world. Then, as we say, we've got to really compel them to want to buy from us. And again, what I see, if you're not getting enough people on sales calls, either problem A is you're not bringing in enough new leads. So that first thing I said, you're not actually getting enough people signing up to your email list, which normally means you're not visible enough, or there's something, and it's always then comes down to messaging. So step one, you've got to get in front of people. Step two, you need to make sure your messaging is bang on so that those people you get in front of go, oh, hell yes, that's what I need. And then step three is if you're not getting enough people on sales calls, you're usually not making enough offers. Okay. So you need to be making an offer. And again, if you're going, but I am making offers all the time, how clear are those calls to action? And actually, are people compelled to take action from them? Is the content hitting the spot? Is the message clear enough that it's compelling people to take action? You want your messaging to be so dialed in that people they don't even need that call to action that says like book a call, because they are going to be messaging you going, oh my God, how do I work with you, Viv? Or
Yeah.
how do I work with you? That's what you want, because your messaging so speaks to them. I want you to be in their brains and them going, are you reading my mind? Like, are
Yeah, I
you?
think, and also I think it's one thing to remember as well, because people, I see people posting social media all the time, and I do it myself,
Hmm.
but we often forget that there are lurkers too.
Yes.
I think a lot of people get hung up on engagement, don't they? Go, oh, I've only had
Yeah.
10 likes, this person's got 100, but there's a lot of people who are looking and watching you that aren't engaging with your posts, and usually they're the ones that are actually really wrapped and
Yeah.
interested in your world. I get people posting, they go, oh, you're everywhere on social media, and I see you everywhere. And I'm like, well, I've never seen you interact with a post, but it's really interesting when people come up and they say that, because you don't necessarily see them, but they are in your world. And that's
Yeah.
one thing that I think is so important to remember, that
Yes.
you are your business, aren't you? And whatever
Yes.
you put out there is what all these people are seeing.
Yeah.
But also sometimes, and this was said to me recently, and it's somewhere where I don't do enough, it's actually just telling people that you are actually available to work, or
Yes.
you have got this thing out there. Because again, we put these posts out, but we don't go, actually, I have this thing that Luno's program, of course, that you can buy. Are you interested? We need to be a bit more blunt, I think, and like
Yeah, totally.
stop getting around it, stop talking around it. Just go, look, I have this thing that I've made for you that I think is really good. It's going to help you do this. Do you want it? There's either a yes or a no. You don't need all of this like waffly nonsense, because it puts me
Yeah.
off. If someone has a 20-page sales page, I literally can't even get to the bottom.
No.
I mean, I've got I'm pretty certain I've got ADHD and I'm going through diagnosis. And a lot of people now, the attention span isn't there anymore. I
No.
mean, there was a post the other day, I'm sure it was fantastic. I read the first two paragraphs, and then I did the show more, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have the time to read all that, and I
Yeah.
left it. And this is the thing, it's the attention span as well, isn't it?
Yes.
It's all changed so much now, like you say, to what it was even 10 years ago. It's
Massively.
crazy. Mm.
Massively. And it was really interesting what you're saying then as well, because the whole thing about people not being very direct and clear with their call to action, like, I've got this thing, do you want it? Fundamentally, buy from me, book a call, whatever. Comes back to the, and this is I guess it probably links to the, the money block around the sales. Because when people, I see this so often, like people, as I like to call them, corporate escapees, who've been in corporate, and I've worked with a lot of clients who've been, successful, like high level, running like multi-million pound teams and selling. But when it comes to selling themselves, as they see it, as a solopreneur, they struggle.
Yeah,
It's so difficult. And this is so one of the blocks that I see again when it comes to the sales, and how uncomfortable it feels to do the sale. So often that energy, is behind the content we're putting out and the calls to action. And it's almost like you're writing like, buy from me, but I'm going to kind of not ask really.
I'm going to say it really quietly in a whisper and hope you don't hear me, but I really want you to buy from me
Yeah.
too.
Or you see it in like webinars and workshops, or when people have that opportunity to kind of talk about their offer, and they kind of mumble through it at the end, because again it feels so uncomfortable, and we suck at selling ourselves. We
Oh yeah,
genuinely do.
totally.
So actually stop selling us, stop trying to sell yourself so much, and actually get other people to do it for you, and talk about how great you are, and get your clients to talk about how great you are, so you are still going to sell yourself, but you don't have to stand there and kind of go, I'm amazing because of this. Get your clients to say it through the results they get and through their testimonials and case studies.
It's really important as well, isn't it, for what we're saying with the self-confidence? Because if I go back a year ago, when I first started my money strategy and properly set it up, I didn't have the confidence to go and talk about it. But now I will just go, yeah, I do this, and this is what I do. Are you interested? And this is how I can help you. And it is that growth within yourself and the
Mm-hmm.
confidence. And like you say, when we go out there, and it is, I quite happily go out and go, yeah, you know what, that loaf of bread is £2, that one's £3, but actually that one's nicer than that one. We talk about it, and I could talk about other people quite easily because that person's amazing work for them. But
Yeah.
again, when it comes back down to yourself, and it is all about that growth and being more confident in getting out there and actually talking about you and your services, like you say, no, and unless you get the testimonials, and to get the testimonials, you obviously need to have the services out there that you're selling in the first place. And this is where it's really hard, isn't it? And we do
Yeah.
need to get so much more confident. But the only way you can do that, you need to put yourself out there. It is
Yeah.
a learning curve, and actually, it's not quite as scary as we all think. Like a year ago, I wouldn't have even thought of doing a reel, and now I've got TikTok, and I've had it for a while, and I have done the whole dancey thing because I forced myself to do it
Yeah.
because I felt uncomfortable, and I thought, you know what, if I do it and I put it out there, then I'll get over it, because
Yeah.
actually there's not much bad that's going to happen. Worst case scenario, you can delete it. It's not the end of the
Yeah,
world, you know.
exactly.
People forget, and about what 1% of your posts are seen. I've still got people on Facebook liking things that I posted a month ago because, like you
Wow.
say, the algorithms are just so shot at the moment.
Yeah,
It's crazy, isn't it? So it is. You do have to be consistent. I would like to go back and touch on. You said you started a business at 22.
I did.
So, what was there a reason for that? Why didn't you
Hmm.
want to go into the working world, or did you? And then did you change? So, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I worked while I was at uni as well, so I always worked sort of part time alongside to earn money, and yeah, so I was working with because like I said I studied drama. I was working with a touring theatre company, so in my last year, and then when I finished uni, and it was great. So we were doing this. They were a rural touring theatre company, so they went to all the nice villages in Lancashire, and we take and do theatres, productions in workshops and small theatres and so on and so forth. And it was great. Um, and then the company decided to sit everyone down and said, we really want to like talk about our business plan and get everyone's involvement. Like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, really want to work with young people who are really disengaged and at risk, because my mum and dad had fostered and still did foster at that time. They fostered for 20 odd years. And so I had seen a lot of young people come through our family who, were dealing with stuff that as an adult you'd struggle to deal with.
Yeah,
And these were like, primary age children, young children. And they were dealing with so much stuff. And then I really saw how much they struggled with mainstream education. And really, I have so much respect for teachers, but when you are going through the emotional turmoil that a lot of these kids going through, when you're in a class of 30 kids, 32 kids, it's difficult to get that attention and focus, and our education system's not set up for it. So a lot of these children were sort of being failed, really, and their behavior may not have been great as a result of what was going on. Again, totally understandable. So they were becoming disengaged with mainstream education, were ending up excluded, and so on and so forth, because of all the stuff that's going on in life. And these were the kids I really wanted to help, because I was like, do you know what? Like, they are brilliant kids, they're brilliant young people. So the theatre company said, oh, no, we don't do that. We want to work with nice children, like nice children in the villages. That's just not where we want to go. That sounds really challenging and hard work. And that's okay. Like, they knew that that's what they wanted to do. And I was asking to go down a path that was going to be really challenging. And at that point I went, oh, do you know what? I think I want to do this for myself. And so I, so naive, but determined, decided I was going to set up my own company. And so I went off and set up my own business, and then started, I approached my first, I don't know if they're called this anymore, pupil referral unit. So like exclusion unit for sort of secondary age children who'd been excluded from mainstream education, and said, hey, I want to come in and use drama, and I had a friend who taught dance and dance to like offer some alternative education. And so went into one of these schools and started doing that, and the results like blew us away. I mean, gosh, they were hard children, but amazing as well, because they had so much experience. So imagine like the stuff they could input. But what was really interesting was the school, after a couple of weeks, said, do you know what's really, or a month or so, said what's really interesting is they have their curriculum, like English or maths subject, after your creative lesson, and their focus is so much better as a result. So word got out. So I didn't have to sell myself. So then word got out to other referral units in Lancashire area, and I started going in and doing the same thing. And then and then it kind of grew from there. And then I got funding from the local authority, because I was moving down to Liverpool because my husband was from here. So we decided to move back to Liverpool. So I was still working around Lancashire, and then got some funding which again, money stories, how to be totally clueless, put in for some funding. And there was so much money around then in local authorities. They were just like giving it away, it felt like, for a literacy project. So there was a big focus for improving the literacy levels of specifically boys, year 5 and 6, on free school meals. That was the criteria. So we put in a bid, and I had a team member. So we put in a like performance. We brought in a load of performance poets and rap artists to run this project, but we put in a bid for £86,000 for over 2 years to have that, like, 43 one year, 43 next year, and they gave us 86 in the first year.
Wow.
And I was
Yeah.
like, that, oh, right, I must have made a mistake on the bid. But I was like, well, I'm not going to turn that down. So suddenly started getting all this money. And then word got out. So I had other people going, well, we want this for girls, and we want this for this. And literally, like, the business just went crazy from there. So it really took off, which was amazing.
I think it's amazing what you did. I mean, obviously it's not quite the same, but my son obviously has got cerebral palsy, and at the moment I'm currently battling the council to get him into the right education system, and he doesn't have the, he doesn't get, obviously it's not at all the same sort of situation, but it is really hard now because the support isn't there. And I remember when I was a child at school, and I did know, I was quite good friends of someone who was going through a really hard time at his home life, and he was fostered, and we were friends. But I remember in school he really struggled, and I remember actually when we left school speaking to him a few years later, and the whole education system had failed him. He was excluded, he was suspended, and all the rest of it. And I was like, actually, if you just had someone in there who was willing to take you by the hands and help you and listen to you, his whole life would have been so, so different. And this is the thing, and even now the education system needs a massive shape up. It needs to be completely changed. I think what you've done is just wonderful, because the amount of lives that you have changed just for, even if it was just for that, would have, the impact that would have had will last them the whole entire lives. So well done. I think that's absolutely fantastic what you did. It really is.
Yeah, well, it evolved so much more from there. And I
Yeah.
started working with 16 to 18-year-olds who were neat. And I do remember, like, an amazing story. I was at a lunch at a college once, and this waiter came over and he said, are you Viv? And I said, yeah. He said, you changed my life. Honestly, it was like, all the hard days where you've cried over your business and you've got to just, like, it's torturous. I always say that was that moment you go, everything was worth it, just if that one person, like that one thing where he said, you changed my life, like I was totally bumming around doing nothing, and you came in, you ran your program that we were running for neat young people, and you helped me get into college.
That's amazing.
And you changed my life, and now I'm doing this and da da da. And I was like that, and you just want to burst into tears. And that was awesome. And then eventually we evolved into becoming a specialist college, doing alternative like education using arts, but for 19 to 25-year-olds who had finished at specialist schools and basically were going into the black hole and precipice, but what was the adult care system and sitting in day centres with 80-year-olds and things. So we had set up a college. So yes, this was one of the things that bored me to death. Ofsted and all of the education and bureaucracy, I was like, this is not what I want to do. I want to change lives. So did that for a few years, so yes, so that legacy is still there. It still exists as a specialist college, but I was like, this is not for me anymore. I want to do something else. So that's still going, and is an amazing place, changing a lot of lives, and getting a lot of people that would have been written off in the world, using their amazing, awesome individual skills for some of those people and getting them opportunities at colleges and in jobs. We had someone that went to work as a chef at the Savoy.
Wow.
Which is amazing, and had been told basically wouldn't achieve anything in life because he had no qualifications and because of his autism and da 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 da. It's crazy.
I absolutely love that. I really do love what you've done. That's amazing, and the fact it's still going is just so important. And I don't talk about it very often, but when I was at school, I actually couldn't read or write until I was in was it year 7?
Wow.
Because when I was a child, my eardrums burst and I actually couldn't hear very much. And for a lot of most of my childhood, I actually couldn't really hear or taste anything. And I was told throughout my whole schooling life that I wouldn't amount to much, that I would fail. And I was actually predicted like E's, U's, F's, the whole lot. And I remember literally just basically being put in the corner of the classroom and just being told to get on with it. And that was, I remember that in, year one, year two, year three, even in year four, I remember getting, it's a little sad thing when you get your pen, your first fountain pen, like you used to get in year four, and it was taken off me. And I remember working really hard to get it, and within a week it was taken off me. And I still remember being absolutely gutted. And then I remember going into year five and timetables. And I don't hide the fact that I'm rubbish at maths, but timetables, which is, as a bookkeeper, but you don't need maths for bookkeeping and money. This is the thing that people think. You don't need to be good at maths for it. And I remember having to do timetables and the teacher working really hard with me to actually get me through that. And I did, I remembered it and I did the test and I managed to pass it. And then I forgot them like a week later. And I've always had to. So for me, if I don't find something interesting, I find it really hard to retain the information. So
Yes.
like with GCSEs, I had to do a lot of studying and an awful lot, and I had to put everything in order and remember it in order. And when I left school, I actually was left with A stars and A's, and I actually
Amazing.
got a governing award, like body award, for the highest achiever within the whole of Somerset because of how I had gone. Like they predicted me for my whole school life E's and F's, and actually I passed with A stars and A's, and I worked hard for that, but it just for me. I mean, I struggle with the schooling system anyway because I'm probably quite open to being in a different schooling and changes because of what I went through. And that was with not having the struggles, not being in foster care and all the rest of it. So I can't imagine like how some of these children who are going through a hard time, how they feel then to be told by a school, one place where they go where they probably do think actually I might have something which is quite normal, and then they're being told that actually not going to amount to much. Because I know how that felt for me, and I just can't imagine like for those
Yeah.
people with those children how that feels when they've got everything else going on too.
The
So the fact that you
support's
said
just
to me,
not
no,
there. The
no,
support's
it's
just not there. I mean, you think about, my good friend lost her husband 2 years ago, and they have a daughter who's just turned 8. So you think she was 6 when this happened. And she's been really well supported by school and also has counselling through charities that are specialists in cancer charities, so she gets a lot of support. But when you're taken out of your home, for whatever reason and put into this system, unless you end up needing to have CAMS intervention, which is again like that, and that for anyone that doesn't know what that is, it's child and adolescent mental health services, which is really hard to get now, and you've got to be
almost impossible to
it's
get.
almost impossible. And some authorities I was reading recently, it doesn't exist, you just can't get in. And you think you have to be beyond crisis. I mean, like beyond crisis, like suicidal sometimes and things like that going on, to get that. And yet it should be there, that there should be the same sort of like you get with bereavement counselling. They should be that, when you've for so many things for children, for
Yeah.
so many of the things they face.
There needs to be, even now, like this is why I really do love what you've done, is because even now there needs to be so much more support for kids and
Yeah.
what they're going through, because it affects your entire life and
Yes.
how they are when they're a teenager and adult and then having their own children, and it's changing the generational trauma as well,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Because then you can actually go, look, this is actually how life is and could be for you, so then when they have their own children they can pass on the new knowledge to their children.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, well done. So how did you go from that then? So you said that you didn't enjoy it, which I completely get. You didn't enjoy doing all of the Ofsted and everything. So it becomes very paperworky, doesn't it? So, but how, you went from that onto your photography and then to your marketing visibility, that's very different, isn't it? But obviously still very supportive. So you're obviously quite a caring person because it's very much supporting people and helping people move forward, isn't it? So that's a big
Yeah.
change. So where did you, sort of, how did you get into that then?
Yeah, I always said I wasn't the caring one out of my sisters. But my gran was like, "You really are," because they're both nurses. My sisters are both nurses in Australia. But yeah, I think my mind shows up in a different way. Yeah. So how did I go? So obviously, I said I wanted to do something more creative because my degree was in drama. I studied drama at uni. So I just thought, you know what, I want to do something creative, and so I decided to go for photography because I thought, you know what, it's great. I want to see people at their happy times and not have all the bureaucracy and be dealing with all the red tape. It was probably a very hormonal based decision now I look back. But yes, I decided to do that. And so I created my first online business, because my first business wasn't an online business. It was very like word of mouth based. I built it through, connections and borrowing other people's audiences and so on and so forth. This was like, oh my gosh, suddenly got to be online. I felt this needed to be on social media because everyone was saying you need to be on social media. So I decided I was going to do all genres of photography because I was interested in everything. And so I did newborns and boudoir and weddings and all sorts. But it was really difficult because I was so unclear, obviously talking about messaging. What was I selling? Was I selling newborn photography? Was I selling boudoir? Da, da, da. So it was a very unclear message. So I struggled with this whole, people were like, yes, I'd run a business, but I'd never run an online business. There was a lot to learn. And social media was never my jam. Like, sort of, it wasn't a place I hung out. My younger sister's 5 years younger than me. And, for her, being on Instagram and having a phone was like, a third limb for her kind of growing up. Whereas for me, I didn't get my first phone until I was like 20. So it was a sort of different like way of coming at it. So I was kind of like getting into the whole like online thing and struggling at the start with that business. And I had a new baby and then I was pregnant very quickly after having that baby. And it was like, oh my gosh, I didn't have these 80-hour weeks, that I was working with the first business. So, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Very much changes, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was finding it really difficult. And I knew like one of the reasons I'd left my other job was like, when I have a family, I don't want to be on call all the time. I want to be fully present with my kids. I only want to work school hours. And yet I was finding it really difficult. It wasn't even school at that point, but I was just struggling with that balance. And sleepless nights, like doing this all through like that haze of like fatigue, which you look back now and I go,
you wonder how we get through it.
do you do it? Yeah. So I did that, and then I evolved and eventually niched down into personal brand photography with female business owners, and I loved it. Like, really loved the women I was working with. And as soon as I niched down, like I rebranded, niched down and rebranded, and within 10 weeks I was hitting 5K profit months, like amazing. Just like that, consistently. And I guess I can use the word savvy because we're on this podcast. Like, someone was saying to me the other day, God, you were so clever. Like, through lockdown, I was making money and growing my income, which most photographers were like, I've got no income, because I had sold my packages as annual packages. So they got 4 shoots a year. So it wasn't people just coming like for one-off. So that happened as well. But I had a set number of annual packages I was selling a year, so that I always had like this recurring income month on month. So it was awesome. And that was like a really big way of keeping that consistent revenue coming in. And I was attracting these amazing women who were all really identifying as rebels within their industry. Now, that wasn't intentional. That wasn't like in my messaging, but they were all like, I don't fit this and I don't fit that. But I am my own kind of rebel category within my niche. And I loved it. And it was so interesting. But what was interesting is, this need to create so much social media content, and that marketing was still really difficult for people, and attracting audiences was difficult, and the amount of time these women were spending on their marketing. And they were women like me, who were juggling families. They were making a lot more money than I was. I had like multi-6-figure entrepreneurs, but again, their time, it was so much time on social media, not necessarily generating the results, and they were feeling like totally pressured into having to be so visible on social media. And so that was kind of happening alongside some photographers coming to me saying, how did you grow your business so quickly? Can you teach me how? So I started doing so this is how I kind of started falling into the coaching. And I was like, I'm actually really enjoying this. And I think, a lot had happened for me over those few years. And it took me the time to go, actually, this is something I'm really passionate about doing. Yeah. I think I just needed that break, from running a big organization, big team, to being on my own, to going, actually, I really want to help people again. Like, I didn't feel through the photography I was directly helping people get those results. So it started evolving. And then I started attracting entrepreneurs who, so many different things, like, menopause like hypnotherapists and parent coaches and business coaches and all different people, and again predominantly women, who were all coming to me with this problem of income, sales have plateaued, income's not consistent, da 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 da. And that was what I was seeing. And a lot of people saying, and I hate social media.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting, because I was still very active on I was still active. I wouldn't say very active on social media. I knew I didn't really want to be on social media. And it was like these people were finding me, and I was like, that I'd not put anything out at that point about like, you don't have to be on social media. I was very much speaking to, a more general marketing message and business sort of message at that time, and just about doing things in an aligned way that feels good to you. So there was nothing in there that said like, get off social media. It's not giving you like, or stop focusing on social media, or use it in a different way, which is how I talk about it now. Flip everything you're doing with social media and like within your funnel, and actually, don't have it at the top of funnel, which most people are doing. That's the mistake, because it's not going to provide you with the best return on investment. So, the business evolved, but it was also, I started working and helping people get results. So I was actually, talking to people about partnerships and borrowing other audiences and and doing things that felt good without social media, so they could grow these sustainable businesses. And that's, from there, obviously my messaging, my niche and everything, evolved and refined, but it all happened very organically. Like I didn't kind of go one day, I'm just going to set up a business to do this. And that's not like me, because obviously, like, I've been, my first business was very much like, this is what I'm doing, as time went on. But yeah, I think I'd just kind of gone, let's go with the flow a bit more and see where this takes me. So yeah, as much as I loved the photography, it wasn't something when I looked, I was like, can I see myself doing this in 15 years? No. Whereas the coaching,
more of a passion.
The passion for it. And I love seeing the direct results, when people go, this resulted in me making 6K in sales this month, this resulted in this.
More satisfying, isn't it, when you
it's more satisfying. Yeah. And I am a very numbers driven person, so I think for me that's what helps.
I love that. No, it's great how it's happened organically, and you probably need that photography, like you say, just to have a bit of a break, and and it kind of helped you go into what you're in. So you obviously went on the right path that you're meant to. Yeah, no, it's wonderful. So what we have to come to an end of the podcast now, and do you have anything that anyone can download to help come into your world, learn more about you?
I do. So today we've obviously touched on some of the things that people need to kind of focus on within their businesses to get to consistent revenue, consistent sales, and to get break that plateau that maybe you're in. So I have a free guide called the Audience Accelerator. I don't actually know if the guide's called the Audience Accelerator, but here is the link for that. You can go to my website, vivguy.com, and / the word accelerator, which is ACCELERATOR. Did I say?
Yes,
is that right? Oh, do you want me to read it? Yeah.
Well, if you give me the link, I will post it in the description for anyone listening. So when they go on to this and listen, they can obviously click it as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
No. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great, and I've absolutely loved hearing all about your story, and thank you for the tips and that. But, I think when we go on to this and we chat to people, we learn more about you, don't we? And I think it's wonderful what you've done. So thank you so much for coming on. And anyone listening, if you want to get in touch, please do download Viv's guide and have a look. And also, let's get you some more marketing and sales and things, up boosting your business up a bit more as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Louisa.
That's all right. And thank you everyone for listening, and I'll be back with you next week. Bye.